Welcome to the Old-Fashioned Three. They've been around basketball from the Big Dipper to the Greek Freak, from Russell Celtics to Curry's Warriors, from Peach Baskets to Paolo Banchero. Here are Whitey Gleason, Phantom, and Jerry Reynolds.
Yes, that was that cat, all right.
Hey,
Look
we're
at this.
back in front of the Golden One Center.
Yeah.
Apparently. How do we get that set up? The great Jerry Reynolds, the Phantom, and I'm
That's
no
me.
one of consequence. Back with you, the old-fashioned three. It's been too long.
It's been a long time. I'm not going to say too long.
I didn't mean it.
I
No.
think it was too long myself.
Do you?
You always were
I
the nice
missed
one.
it. I missed it. And I know tens of thousands of fans out there
Sure.
who maybe will get on
Sure.
board now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
We have a situation in Sacramento now with the Kings where it looks like Mike Brown may be sending a message to Kevin Huerter. I have a feeling maybe I'm being sent a message because I don't have the Stones Radio Network shirt. And are you guys kind of sending me a message?
Well,
Like I'm not.
We've only got two starters locked in for
Yeah,
the season right
okay.
here, and it's these two right here. So, you need to earn your spot back.
Well, no,
I know you
really, no. This is the way I see it.
Okay, fair enough.
It's like the head coach on football. they always wear
He
something
dresses different. He has his suit on and stuff.
So it's like, hey, fans, I'm different.
Yeah.
I'm the man.
Well,
see, so
yeah.
So it's not us, it's him.
Yeah.
He's setting himself apart.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
he's-
But you actually don't have the old-fashioned three shirt on.
No.
So.
No, but I have Stones Radio Networks. There's so many different pieces of apparel that publicize the Stones Radio Networks.
Well,
Jerry and I modeling just a couple
Well,
of
I
them.
just do the old-fashioned three. I mean, obviously with Stones Network,
Yes.
you do
Other
numerous
stuff.
things.
That's right. Yes, of course.
You guys have a water polo shirt that I could.
We have a water polo broadcast. We haven't
Okay.
got the shirt yet. We're still working
Yeah.
on that ourselves.
Would it be a good idea to subscribe to Stones Radio Network?
Well, I've been told by Stones Radio Network's president,
Well,
Stones McCoy. Yes,
you get a lot of
definitely
good sports, other sports,
You do.
and of course the old-fashioned
would.
three.
You get a lot of stuff. You get American River College. You get Lincoln Potters. You get the old-fashioned three. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
I don't know why you watch anything else.
You don't
I'm a little concerned about the Kings.
already?
Yes, because they look like a team that needed to get better in defense, and if anything, they look like they're backsliding, even though it's the preseason. Maybe I'm crazy, Jerry. Maybe it's stupid to put any stock whatsoever in what happens in the preseason. I just find myself, if I'm honest here, with the season just days away, I'm a little more anxious than I thought I would be after last year's magnificent season.
Well, I will say this: I wouldn't call you stupid. But,
Okay.
but overreactive, of course. I was on the Kings Herald the other day. We were talking about this very thing, and I said, "Well, I'm old enough to remember many of the Kings' really good teams having losing records in the preseason, and some of the really terrible teams
Sure.
having winning records. So, what does that say?" In my mind, the preseason is a notch above summer league, and don't make it.
Right.
That's just what it is.
I understand that, but I'm not even talking about the losses, just the way they're
just the
competing
way
at times.
Now, here's what I would say. To me, I've always said the last preseason game that teams play, you might get some indication, because by that time they are trying to win almost always, and they've got their rotation set. I mean, more so.
Sure.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think they've been a little underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weren't they trying to win the last game against the
I kind of think
Warriors?
they were. That would be my take on it. I think they were, and the Warriors really didn't care, and so that would be make
Yeah.
it. It raised the needle a little bit.
Yeah. You got to guard people to this level, Phantom.
Well, what you alluded to earlier, though, is what concerns me. Is I thought the Kings had everything set in place, and they're adding things on the periphery, but they had everything set in place. Their process was in place. They had their starting lineup and everything, and everybody's going to get better, and they're going to move forward, and Murray's going to take a leap and everything. And then all of a sudden, Herder's out of the starting lineup in a preseason game. It's okay. It's all right. But then all of a sudden, you got another change in the starting lineup, and it sounds like, as you said, sending a message. I don't know that a message needed to be sent, really. I thought we were just coming back, taking the same thing and moving forward and trying to improve. It just seems a little unnecessary to throw all these cogs in the machine, if you will, and all of a sudden people are wondering, well, who's this? And then he comes out and says only two starters are locked down for the season. I kind of thought...
Who's he, Mike Brown? I assume
Mr. Mike Brown. Yeah, he or Stones. But I kind of thought that, that was one thing that was set. Okay, we've got these five. We've got our rotation coming off the bench. That's set. Now let's just get better. And then all of a sudden we've got this thing where, wait a minute, two starters are locked down? I don't understand the motivation here.
I got an answer to that, but I didn't
No,
coach.
go
it.
ahead. No,
yeah. The answer to that is Kevin Herter has not been good. And so Kevin Herter is the issue. So he's not starting for now, and it might be more than a message. It might be he might not be starting. But publicly the coach doesn't want to single him out. So then it's like, you know what? And only 2 guys have a spot in the starting lineup. The truth is it's Kevin Herter is the one whose starting spot is up for grabs right now, in my opinion.
Well, I would say probably if you're Keegan Murray, you're saying, no, not really.
Are you
Or
kidding
Harrison
me?
Barnes.
Harrison
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
everybody
that's
knows.
what it is,
Okay,
Ben.
all right.
It's kind of a way of massaging. Kevin Herter's got. You probably saw the clip of him, the audio of him in front of his locker after last game. He's not happy about it. Who would be? But it's a delicate situation for a coach.
Well, it is, and I mean, Carter has not played well at all, and defensively or offensively. So I kind of get the coach. I mean, it's like if you want to get better, you can't just give guys positions. I mean, going forward, now you got a reason to believe that the Red Menace will turn in away from being
Yes.
Red Velvet, which is what he is
Mm-hmm.
now. I mean, and he has to step it up because you can't get better if one of your guys you were counting on is playing poorly. So, and there's plenty of time. But as we were talking about in the car
show. was
Car
great
show.
today.
Yeah, had to
Is
break
it-
it up to get him in here.
that Herter should be, he had his best year of his career last year, did not have a good playoff, but he's had good playoffs before with the Hawks. So he's proven that in the big run. And so, but he should be better. This should be his best time.
Yeah,
So,
but it still can be, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's-
absolutely.
I just wonder why they do that now. Why don't hit the ground running with the starting line? Unless he's just embarrassing himself every day when he takes the floor. But I mean, you have a starting lineup. You start the season with the starting lineup, and then if this guy doesn't produce, who, like you said, has produced in the past, then you look into making a change. But it just seems to change it before the season started. It's a little presumptive.
well, the only thing I can say, and I'm kind of with Coach Brown, I think at some point if you want to, you're expected to have a better team. And the West is tough, and so if if it's going to be a, Kings Boys Club from last year, I'm not sure that's going to happen. And I think if there's one thing this team probably needs to get better defensively, it's going to be pull some chains. He
was really bad against the Lakers. D'Angelo Russell in a real game would have scored like 70. Kevin Herter was barely there. Plus, he's not making shots. So, yeah, it's like we don't have any scholarships based on last year, and you have to play better than that.
Yeah, I said it's not Little League. Everybody don't get to play 3 innings.
Oh, I know.
You know?
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I played Little League too early. You didn't have to play 3 innings in those days.
Look, let's be honest, Phantom, because they used to call you Red. I know you hated it.
They
but-
used to call
yeah.
me Red. I did not care for it.
How many
it
really
did not matter?
good redheaded basketball players have there been? It's just a question.
Uno, but he was pretty good.
Who?
Bill Walton was pretty good.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
When he played.
Yeah.
Was Dave Cowens a redhead?
You have to ask the
Not
master.
really.
Not really?
I
No.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was
Johnny Red Kerr, was he?
Red Kerr. Well, he was.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, until
Two
he,
Hall of Famers right
till
there,
he,
okay?
Until he kind of lost it.
Well,
Yeah,
that happens to
yeah.
all of us, Jerry.
Yeah, how about Red Auerbach? He's a pretty good coach.
I guess
So
so.
you're taking. We are
Wow.
benching. We're benching Herter because of his hair color.
And
now.
Red-
no gingers on
and
the
Red
court.
Holtzman.
Oh,
so
geez,
maybe
come on.
we need more
Maybe.
Reds.
We need
in the
more
coaching
Reds.
fraternity.
Yes. So make Herter an assistant coach.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the great John Bach, who was a great assistant
Yeah.
with the Bulls. Years and years and years ago, I was covering this Warrior team. They were terrible. It was after Rick Barry. They were terrible. John Bach was the head coach, and no one knew who he was at the time. And I remember talking to him after a game, and they were awful. And he said, well, we continue to play like we think defense is what goes around the yard. And that's the first time I ever heard that. I'm reminded of that every time I see the Kings play right now. And look, if they want to be better this year, it's got to get better, and I don't know how it's going to be.
He's depressing me, Jer. He's really depressing me because
it,
we talked
well,
about this all over the first 67 episodes of
Exactly.
the Old-Fashioned Three.
Yeah.
Well, and he's right.
Yes, that's what hurts
You
the
know,
most, I think.
that's the thing. They've got to get a little better defensively. As we talked again here, I mean, you look at the West. Now, everything's based on health, which last year the same teams that were expected to be really good weren't, or disappointing due to health, and the Kings had a terrific year. But that's what worries me is the Kings could be slightly better, but if Clippers stay healthy and Phoenix stays healthy, and Oklahoma City takes a step, which they can, and Memphis gets going. I mean, they've been second the last couple of years, so and with John Morant going to miss it. So I mean, there's just so many. I really think, and I've watched some playoffs or preseason, but I think there's probably 12 teams in the West that could be anywhere from 3 to 12. And I think it's going to be that kind of year if everybody's healthy. I mean,
I think we agree on this. I don't know how you feel. Who knows? But if the Kings are in the playoff race this year and they get into the playoffs any which way, I think that's a good thing. I know a lot of fans are thinking third last year, you got to be number one, which would be great. But to me, you could be better. We've talked about this, and not win as many games. And if you get in this year, hopefully you win a series. But getting into the playoffs to me still would constitute a good year for the Kings.
Oh, I agree. I think if they could be in the top 6, if they could, and I think that'll be hard. I mean, they can be a better team and be sixth and be a better team and better prepared for the playoffs. That of course, with competition, you can't. You have to know the opposition has something to do with how good you are.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows that.
You were a coach and stuff, weren't you?
Yes.
You know that.
And I know that for a fact.
Well, it seems like if the Kings this year do what we were hoping they would do last year, which is just make the playoffs in there, would probably be a successful season.
Yeah.
But the one thing they've got going for them is, as we talked about before, they've got basically the same cast of characters. All these teams that you mentioned, all these teams that obviously are good, they're all bringing in new pieces, and they're all trying to integrate new pieces. And so the advantage I would think the Kings would have was you're going with the same pieces, and you're going to grow with the same pieces. So hopefully that's the thing with with Herder getting out of the starting lineup perhaps and stuff. That's not following that narrative, but that's the one thing that we have. Speaking of the Kings, is other teams are bringing in Bradley Beal, and they're bringing in this guy, and John Morant's out for 25 games.
Chris Paul.
And there's a lot of stuff. Chris Paul coming in. So, that's the one thing that I think teams, a variable, obviously injuries, but also new faces and trying to fit them in.
No, I agree. I mean, there's no question. I think the big advantage Kings have is continuity. We always talk about culture, but they do have that. And Coach Mike Brown and Monty McNair, I mean, they did terrific jobs. So the confidence factors there. A lot to be said. Well, I think Denver's a great example of exactly what the Kings hoped to do is they stayed with it. Same coach, general manager for the most part, kept their main pieces together. Added
a generational player, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of helps.
Well, quite a bit.
Yeah,
yes.
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of culture, and I know it's a kind of an overused word that actually irritates some people, but there's something to it. As far as the Kings go, last year, great culture. Mike Brown brought in great culture. And, of course, the players deserve a lot of credit for that, too. But correct me if I'm wrong. It's not something you just have and then it's on autopilot. I mean, it's something that's got to evolve. They had a great year, but everyone has to invest again in this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. Is everybody in? So they're still building the culture, I think, on top of last year. As far as that goes, the work is just beginning if they want to be a really good team.
Well, I agree with you. I think that's kind of forgotten somewhat. Is that no question? Everything has went well, and the culture has turned. The winning does it, and good players and winning really is what does it. But just look back a couple of years ago to the Atlanta Hawks, who Nate McMillan, had them really going good. They went to the Eastern Finals, and then here a couple of years later, there's no Nate McMillan, and their team in disarray. And their star Trae Young is being questioned. So the culture can go just like it came.
Right. It's a good problem to have because it's only a problem that good teams have, but still there's work to be done is my point.
It evolves too because you're getting new members into that culture and you're bringing in new people, JaVale McGee and all these other people, Chris Duarte, and also the people that you already have there. They're evolving as well. So, you have to stay on top of it. It's not a static thing that just sits there. You've got to go ahead and keep going, and I think that's what maybe Mike Brown's trying to do with the whole Herder situation is trying to reestablish that culture going forward.
Well, I think so. I really do. I'll give Coach Brown. I think he's, there's nothing wrong with ways the guy
No.
guy's not playing well, and hey, Kevin, we take maybe play a little less, kind of get your game together, and we'll see what these other guys can do a little bit.
Don't you think that has to be so hard for Mike Brown, a defensive-minded coach, to coach this team, and they win, and that's great, but they don't defend well? It's got to be really frustrating for him, right?
Oh, I think it is, because that's kind of one of his hanging his hat on his
Bread and butter. And
yeah, as a defensive coach, and they're not playing very good defense. But it's kind of like Rick Alabin always used to say. People always bitch about the Kings defense back in that day, and of course I always said, well, they're scoring 7 more points every game than the opposition, so that's good.
That was analytics before anybody
That
called
was
it
really
that,
good.
I think.
But I mean, he really is frustrated. He said, well, it's hard to be a good defensive team if you don't have good individual defenders. Duh.
Well,
and I mean,
Yeah,
and that's
that applies.
in
Yeah.
your day, were you able to take a player out who wasn't playing good defense? Did you have people on the bench, or did you just have to kind of hang?
You had
with
to have
what
5
you
on the floor.
You had to have
so-
5 on the floor, but that guy's not playing defense. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not putting that guy in. You were a little limited, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was a case where I'd yell at him some, just hoping
That's going to spark something.
to spark something, because it was like I had no alternatives. I mean, it's like, and of course they knew that too. It's like, you're not going to put him in for me. I mean,
How you're not going to put him in for me. That's a tough one to go against.
Reggie Theus is like, oh yeah, put Othell Wilson in here. That'll work.
That'll solve your problems.
Is it possible? I don't think it is. Is it possible, though, that with everybody scoring more and more and more and more, records being set every year, number threes, offense. Last year, the Denver Nuggets won the championship, and they were 15th, middle of the pack defensive rating. Is it possible that defense is not as vital to being an excellent team as it used to be? I'm not suggesting it is. I'm just asking the question, because they were 15th in defense last year, won the championship.
But they were probably tops in offensive efficiency. I think maybe the discrepancy between that and their defense. Yeah, they played good enough defense for this efficient as their offense was, and they had the generational player as well. So I think maybe you look at it that way and you say no, but I think I would put my stock in. Yeah, it is very important to be good defensively, and I think that's something you need to strive for. Yeah.
Well, certainly, it's the better you are defensively, that helps your offense, because you don't have to be quite as good. But I've always said, I mean, the team that wins has the most points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no
You
exception.
came up with that a long time ago, too. Yeah, yeah. You were ahead of the
figured
curve
out
on
that,
that.
there's a scoreboard, and they don't call it a defensive board.
They
Right.
got the
Right.
hustle board up there, though.
Yeah,
You got to love the hustle board.
Yeah, well,
So that's one of Reynolds' rules, right?
Reynolds
We could
rules,
say that.
yeah.
yeah. Look
Team
at
is-
the scoreboard. There's no stops rules, or stops board.
That's another
Right.
book right there, I think. Reynolds Rule Part 3. Yeah.
But no, I think that's to Whitey's point. I mean, I think if you're a terrific, productive offensive team, if you're middle of the pack defensively, obviously you can win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, going back over the years, well, a team like the Detroit old bad boys Pistons, well, they were a great defensive team and far better than
And
the
Isaiah
average
Thomas,
offensive
too, yeah.
team. Yeah, so that led to championships. And
Yeah, I think the Bucks are going to miss Drew Holiday a lot.
I do too. Oh, I do too.
They were a really good defensive team, and they're not going to be as good defensively. And Drew was also a good offensive player. So
Well, I've always said, we talked about this. It's like, I guarantee you, the Milwaukee Bucks, if they knew Drew Holiday was going to end up in Boston, they had never made
Yeah.
that deal.
That's not the way they
No.
envisioned that working out. No.
And of course, I was happy to see him in the East. But
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that Damian Lillard's better than he is. Period.
Mhm.
He's better offensively by quite a bit.
he's got a better reputation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's quite the playmaker, and definitely not the defender.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I certainly don't have anything against Dame. I think he's terrific, and Milwaukee.
It's exciting, good for the league. And
Yeah.
all
Did
that.
they
all
need to
that.
shake things up in Milwaukee for Giannis and everything? Maybe try something a little
They were
different?
pretty good last
No, I
year.
mean, that's
They had the best record in the league.
I know, but it seems like they think they need, or they thought they needed to do something to kind of jazz things up because they make this move. And
I think they needed to do something to keep him around.
Exactly. So they have to make a marquee move. Go, look, Giannis, look what we're doing. We got you Dame Lillard. So obviously you need to stay around because that's, as you say, that's the bottom line.
Oh, it is. I mean, obviously the superstar players have the power, and you got to deal with that. But what my mind is, you got rid of your coach who had won you a championship and had the best record in the league. Now your superstar, Giannis, I mean, there's no doubt he is, and may be the best player, second best player in the league. But he was hurt during the playoffs,
right?
And they got beat,
right?
Why are you surprised by this?
Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah, that doesn't get mentioned a lot when you talk about
it really doesn't.
Well, yeah, the best player in the league wasn't playing, so that's going to affect the way you play in a playoff series.
In a playoff series,
so maybe a little overreaction there.
I think it's a lot of overreaction. I mean, to me, it's almost like at a lesser level when Portland got rid of Terry Stotts. Mm-hmm. They'd been in 7 or 8 straight playoff years, and I think marginal talent. I mean, they generally overachieved. But they decided somewhere, whoever they is, we should be contending. Well, how much you contending now?
Yeah, I wonder if some of that was.
That's the difference. If you get a different coach, that's going to make you contend. That's not where the problem was.
No, the problem wasn't the coach, and I don't think
it
was with Milwaukee.
I wonder if some of that was to placate Dame too. I mean, that's teams get at cross purposes sometimes. We're a good team. Our superstar's unhappy. He's going to leave. We got to do something. Might not be in our best interest, but it is in our best interest to keep him. So NBA teams fall into that trap.
I think that's a great
sometimes.
point. I'm pretty sure, obviously, they wouldn't have done it if Dame was totally against it.
Right.
Yeah. And so, okay, you did it to placate Dame, and how'd
now
that work out?
And now they use Dame to placate somebody else. So that's how you pay it forward in the league.
So that is the league we're talking about.
The placate league.
Are you buying the notion that the Blazers might have traded Dame to Miami, but after Miami strong-armed him and told other teams, don't trade for him, he's not going to any of your teams, that then Portland decided, well, he ain't going to Miami. Do you buy any of that?
No, because I don't think there was ever a trade in Miami for Dame Lillard. I mean, in other words, once they said, we're not trading Adebayo or Butler. Well, now who else can they trade to get Dame Lillard?
Absolutely.
And if you're Portland, at least, I mean, I know a lot of the ESPN geniuses and media is like, well, you owe it to Dame. No, you don't.
No.
You're paying him $50-60 million a year.
We're compensating him quite well for his efforts.
And I mean, certainly you need to get what you think is value back, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a really good job there. And getting Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and, jibber jabber. I mean, that I don't think and a first-round pick in 2040 is not. I mean,
somebody who hasn't been born yet. Yeah, we need.
They
to get
had
that,
nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd lost their starting guards to free agency. I mean, that's a thin team. So anyway,
Gotcha.
I thought from the very first, it's like, why are you talking? Miami, sure they'd love to have him.
Fano, put your GM hat on for a minute, would you?
Yeah, put that on quick.
What are you going to do here about if you're the GM of the Sixers?
Hi, guys.
If you're Daryl Morey. Or if you want to be the GM in L.A. with the Clippers, what are you going to do about James Harden?
Wow.
What kind of hat is that?
Well, that is.
Now, if you're Daryl Morey, you're a liar,
Yes, thank you. Thank you for putting that in there.
That's your GM
that's
hat?
the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
I followed the Dead back in '78. I followed them on their tour of the Far East. Yeah,
he worships Bill Walton.
Yeah,
Anything
I
Bill
do.
Walton does,
if Bill does it, I'm going to go do it as well.
No, you can't fault that.
Well, if I'm the Clippers GM, I'm not going anywhere near James Harden, obviously. A guy who hasn't reported again, from what I can tell.
They are reported to have interest in James Harden.
Well, of course they have interest in James Harden, but as Jerry just pointed out, if I'm going to get something from you, I mean, it's going to have to make sense for me. And I think that's definitely would be subtraction by addition in that case for putting James Harden in there. I think the Clippers, as they're constituted right now, are right in that mix of teams that you said, Jerry, between 3 and 12. It all depends on Kawhi Leonard. If Kawhi Leonard's healthy, they're on the top of that 3 to 12, and if he's not, they're in the bottom of the 3 to 12. And I don't know that adding James Harden is going to help that in any way. I mean, he's still a very good player, but whether his talents mesh with the other guys, I just don't see it at all. So I would stay away from James Harden anyway. if I'm on the other end, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hat on, take it off, and pull my hair out and try to figure out what I was going to do. How I got myself in this situation in the first place is what I'm thinking about most of the time.
Maybe if you weren't a liar, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I've got to go ahead and confront myself and say I'm a liar and I deserve this.
Well,
yes,
that's my opinion.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
If there's ever a GM that deserves the situation he's in,
Really?
yeah, absolutely. He's always kind of sold his soul for
Yeah.
Harden a couple of times, and it's like, okay,
The bill comes due.
and again, what does he quit on 3 teams now? So if
He's,
I'm
yeah,
not
he's
looking,
three,
if
the last 3.
If I got my hat on and I'm the Clippers GM, I'm not looking to be number 4.
I mean, I certainly the problem I see with it is it's like, well, if it's on a 1-year basis, it might work, and he's on a 1-year deal, but for the Clippers, who are you going to trade? They're at the. I mean, in other words, there again. Well, Russell Westbrook's not making anything. You're not going to trade Paul George or Kawhi for him, even in their situation. So you're looking. I mean, if I'm Daryl Morey, I might take Marquise Morris and Plumlee or whoever.
According to reports, which are not always accurate, one of the holdups is Terrence Mann. It's like Philly wants Terrence Mann, and the Clippers like, no way, we're not giving you Terrence Mann, and he's a nice player, but I don't quite understand that.
Well, I think that answers the question really. In other words, Clippers saying, no, we can't give you Terrence Mann for James Harden. and I think
they don't want him that much.
I think that answers all the questions.
Question for you, Phantom.
Read between the lines is what you're saying, yeah.
Phantom, who is the most overrated team right now in the West? A lot of people, fans, media members. I think I asked Jerry this question last week on Sacktown Sports.
Wow.
Drive Guys, Whitey and Kyle Draper. But anyway, so I know his answer.
What a show.
And he had the same answer I had.
Oh, geez. I'm going to say, well, no, they're not rated highly at all. So I'm going to say the Clippers.
Really?
Yeah.
Could be.
Clippers and Warriors were my 2 thoughts up there.
Yeah.
You guys?
Phoenix Suns.
You're not buying it. You're not buying the new pieces.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I've got to see it. When you're looking at 2 of the big 3 that have missed half the games in the last 3 years, at some point you might say, geez, they may get hurt again.
And we brought a new guy. Well, we brought a new guy in.
Which also applies to the team you picked, too. And that's a fine
Absolutely.
choice as well.
I
think that would have probably been my second choice there. Because they're dependent on guys, terrific talents.
Absolutely.
If they're healthy all year, both those teams are championship probably contenders, even though I still worry about the point guard position. If Booker can do it, but it still takes away from.
That's what I thought too. Yeah,
you're that's not who he is.
Yeah, arguably the best 2 guard in the league, and all of a sudden you want him to handle all the time now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that speaks to the problem of all these teams as we talked about in the West. They're all bringing in new players, and they've all had injuries. And the talk is, well, the Kings escaped the injury bug last year. They won't do that again, and they may not. But I think the odds are better that they do rather than other teams all of a sudden get super healthy.
Question.
Blue shirt.
The Kings, did they escape the injury bug?
Well,
Sabonis played all year with a broken thumb, and I talked to him media day. He explained that he could have had surgery. He would have missed 25 games. So if he'd done that, it would have been, they didn't miss the injury bug. Well, he was hurt. Keegan Murray was hurt too. They played through it.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say, it was so heroic. I'm just saying they did have injuries. They just played through them when a lot of guys in the NBA now, especially older guys, they don't do that. So I'm not so sure they were so lucky. I think they just gutted it out.
Well, yeah, I think it is kind of heroic in today's game. That used to be kind of the pattern. You would play if you could in minor injuries or whatever. But in today's game, it's like, oh, yeah, it's sore. I can't go.
Right. And
Well,
I'm not coming after
making
you.
Rules now.
Yeah,
you can't do
I'm
that
not coming
anymore.
after you because that's what everybody is saying, but I'm not sure it's true. But yes, the player participation policy takes care of all of that now. Everyone's going to play every game,
all
Jared.
settled. Yes,
Everybody at
all
every
settled.
game.
Yes.
And I think we'll see a herd of pigs fly over any day now.
We could see right now over the Golden
Definitely.
One
I
Center.
mean,
We'll keep an eye out for that.
Don't light the beam. There are pigs flying over.
I think it's a great try, and I think it will help a little.
Yeah,
I mean, I
hopefully.
do. I think it'll help a little, and have not been the biggest fan of Commissioner Silver, as you know, but I think he's
You any closer to getting his gig?
Nah. Oh,
I'm at the stage where I've got to get a bigger job than that. I mean, overall,
Okay.
commissioner of all sports.
Okay.
geez. We need a czar of all sports.
A
I'm
czar,
glad
yeah,
you would be the
yeah.
guy.
Roger
that-
Goodell just got a new deal with
Yeah.
the NFL.
Yeah, and that'd be the kind of salary I'm thinking about.
Yeah. What combined
I mean,
earnings of $700 million or something?
I could screw up franchises and leagues for a lot cheaper.
Make dumb rules and
You
stuff.
know,
Yeah.
like the NCAA or something. I could be head of the NCAA and,
Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
become meaningless.
Yeah. What's your first act as commissioner of all sports? The first thing you do, day one. I might vote for you, but I got to know. Day one,
I
what
gotta
are you
know
doing?
Your platform
Yeah.
Less games.
across
games.
the board.
Every
You're in.
Every league
You're in.
plays less games.
You're absolutely in.
Professional leagues, and then I'd get into college basketball, football. You play at least one less game or two, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, we had good college football years ago when they'd play 10 regular
Yep.
season games.
In a bowl game, and that was it.
and
See
now
you
they're
later.
playing
Yeah.
13 and then a playoffs and
Right,
stuff. So anyway,
All
I
right.
mean then but then we got to think of our student athletes, right? That,
Right.
You know,
Well, you're
and
not.
our profits.
and
We got to think
well,
about
profits,
our profits.
baby.
You
student
don't have
ath-
to worry about that. You just worry about the sports side.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't worry about students.
No.
You're just in college administrators.
I think the way it is now, it's pretty close to the way I'd always thought it was going to be. Is it, pay the players some of them $1 million if they want to go to school, they can.
Mm-hmm.
It's not required,
Right. Yeah.
I challenge them to find the library. That's
They got to
yeah,
be motivated
yeah.
as it is. If you're not motivated,
I
what's
mean,
the
there'd
point?
be some guys that would want to go to college.
Mhm. Yeah.
Small group, but
Guys that didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
second stringers. Yeah.
Second stringers.
Yeah, guys who need the degree.
Did you know that with the player participation policy, the rules that they have laid out, they had to define who is a star. And it's if you've been all league or you've been in an all-star game. So there are some pretty good players, including I think Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray. They are not affected by this because they're not considered by the definition. They're not stars.
Yeah, for the
so
last
they can be
3
rested
years,
whenever.
yeah.
Because they're not stars according to the league's definition. So
and of course Russell would play every game he can play.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not going to apply to him. I
No.
just think there's going to be a lot of people with back injuries come game time.
Well,
Because
yeah,
all of
the
a
old
sudden-
go back to
yeah,
the old days
Yeah.
before load management, where flu-like symptoms.
like symptoms
You
and
can't
back
go wrong
injuries.
with flu-like symptoms.
You can't question the guy's back injury.
you don't even want to test
Yeah,
that. If
yeah.
a guy's has
No.
a flu-like symptoms, you don't
Well,
even,
these days, no.
Yeah.
You get him off the team. You
Yeah.
send him home.
Back spasms. You
Oh,
can't-
geez, he can't deal
that's
with
a
those.
bad one.
Oh,
He's
man.
got a calf injury. Well, let's have a
strained
look
calf.
at it.
A
Let's have
strained
look.
calf.
A
That's
strained-
my favorite. Strained
Yeah.
calf.
Someday they'll just go to the hockey vernacular, right? Lower body injury.
Yeah.
Upper body, lower body.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
All right, so this is going to wrap up. What'd you say, 68th show? for us?
68th episode.
Which
of
was
the
your
Old Fashioned.
favorite? I thought
think,
47 was pretty good.
31 top notch.
Oh,
top notch.
I thought 27 just knocked it out.
That's
of the
because you were excellent.
Yeah,
on
I
27.
was
You were
really-
really shining. on
witty.
27.
I mean,
I
you
thought
guys.
I thought it started well, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
Well,
it-
you guys kind of interrupt too much, and that, lost my rhythm.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to develop a culture at that time.
right.
You got to have the right
Work
pieces
is
to
just
develop
beginning.
a culture.
So we're back with you next Wednesday.
Yep. Let's
at
do it.
10. The Old Fashioned 3. Subscribe to the CERN.
Yeah. Stones Radio Networks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stones Radio Network.
Like and subscribe.
And tell your friends if you have any, or people you don't like. Tell them.
Yeah.
Okay,
especially
there you
tell
go.
them. Thanks for being with us today on the Old Fashioned 3. We're back.
Thank you for joining the Old Fashioned 3 on Stones Radio Networks. To stay updated on the show, like and subscribe on YouTube, and all shows are available for download on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and of course at stonesradionetworks.com. Follow the show and the gents on Twitter at OL, Fashioned, and the number 3, at Phantom Radio 60, and at Whitey Gleason. This has been a production of Stones Radio Networks.